So, what do you think, as somebody that's close with Dave Meltzer, the biggest misconception fans have of him is?
I think the biggest misconception is that he I think the low-hanging fruit one, to borrow from like a silly corporate phrase, is that he specifically wants WWE to fail and wants
Mm,
AEW to succeed because of what I explained to you
yeah.
earlier about how we all want AEW to get more popular, because the more popular that they get, the better the business would be for the wrestlers and for the audience. And that's what you root for. That's the story that you root for, is AEW becomes more successful. And if you read back through the history of Dave's writing, like right now, I'm reading all of the 1989 Observers because he has a book out on all the 89 Observers.
Mm,
And there are some tremendous parallels between NWA, which is turning into WCW, and AEW. Now, AEW
mm,
is a far more successful business because of the way that you know they can actually be paid for their content in a way that NWA, WCW was not able to be paid for their
mm,
content. Um, but the parallels from the perspective of perception as the number two, because if you read back, you're like, man, NWA had a great year in 1989. Flair and Funk and Flair and Steamboat, like those are tremendous. And then when you look at the business numbers, you're like, wow, Flair and Steamboat in the same market did less than on a pay-per-view than a normal Savage and Hogan house show,
yeah.
uh, you know, gate. Like the WWF show almost doubled the attendance. Like it was like that crazy. And so it's a lot of the same parallels and a lot of the same tricks, a lot of the same wrestling war tricks are happening that are happening today. And so the idea that Dave would want WWE to fail is absolutely not the case. But instinctually, when you root for business and when you root for what is the style of wrestling that you like better, Dave has always been a more athletic style of wrestling guy in his fandom, going all the way back to his childhood. When he critiques matches, athleticism is at the top, but it's always been. It's not
Mm,
only like, oh, today he just wants high flying wrestling. Going back to the 80s, when he would critique a match, he would say, I critique for athleticism as one of
mm,
the paramounts of what he gives high ratings to. So it's just, the people who today in wrestling, who haven't known him or haven't read him, they have their own perspectives of it. But what Dave is actually rooting for, and what every journalist roots for, is you root for business. You don't root for one company versus the other company.
mm.